This is something running now.
Yep, looks like it should be live on YouTube now.
Right, thank you. Well, welcome to this meeting of the Development Management Review Committee. Prior to the commencement of business, can I please remind all in attendance that the meeting is being live screened and recorded. Also, for all members to raise their blue virtual hand should they wish to speak. Have we any apologies?
No apologies, convener.
Any declarations of interest? No. Minutes of previous meeting. Are accepted?
Read.
Right. This is an application for the review of the decision taken by the Planning Authority in respect of refusal of planning permission for the erection of a new dwelling house reapplication at the land adjacent to Hawthorne Cottage, Baldovan, Strathmartin. Is applicant or agent present?
Convener, we have Mr. Smith, the applicant's agent today.
Right, thank you very much. We had a site visit earlier this morning. Do members require any further information? No further information required. We'll go on to comments. Councillor Miles, your comments?
Yes, thank you, convener. No, I did appreciate the visit. I wasn't overly familiar with the site, but it let us get in perspective just how likely, especially in the flooding issue, it was to happen. But when I saw how far down the Dickie Burn was and the capacity there for quite a considerable amount, I didn't see flooding would be as big an issue as it seemed to have been highlighted on the SEPA mark. Other than that, it's a piece of ground, although be it in a suppose a rural location, it's as close to urban as you can get. So I'm minded that we should maybe allow this application.
Thank you very much. Councillor Duff?
Yeah, thanks, convener. Yeah, again, I think the site visit was very well worthwhile. I wasn't familiar with the area at all, really. Yeah, I mean, I think I would agree with Councillor Miles. I mean, I had jotted down a number of concerns: the SEPA issue, the foul drainage, whether it complied with TC2 or not, and this issue about the whether it was brownfield or a split plot, etc. But having seen it on site, I really struggling to see why we should refuse permission. Clearly, if there's a drainage issue, that has to be resolved to satisfaction of SEPA, Scottish Water. I think SEPA were effectively saying they didn't have evidence one way or the other in terms of whether there was a flood risk, and maybe they're asking the developer to prove that it's suitable. But I think, having seen it, I think I would not be too concerned about that. I think as far as TC2 is concerned, rather like the last one we looked at, I think we could argue that this is a rounding off. It's another house down a lane, and I really can't see a reason for refusing it. It's facing all the houses in Dundee. It's difficult to argue it's really a rural location. I think we have to look at the rules with a bit of flexibility in this case. So yeah, I would agree. I think we should look to approve this one.
Thank you very much, there, Councillor Duff. Councillor King?
Yeah, I appreciated the site visit. It was a part of Dundee that I'd never been in before, even though it is actually in Angus. It's so close to Dundee, it could be just about the same city. I was a wee bit concerned about the flood issue. I'm surprised that the agent hasn't put the house further up the bank. It's at the back of the house to lift it further out of the flood risk area. And I suppose we should be really looking for conditions of, if we're going to agree to allow the house to be built, of significant underbuilding to lift the actual dwelling part of the house possibly another metre or a couple of metres clear of any flood risk area. The other thing that concerns me, we should definitely condition this, that if we grant it, that it must be connected into the Scottish Water foul drainage system. I note from the notes that it's going to be connected to the public water system. I don't see any reason why we should allow a septic tank on this ground when there is foul drainage within the area that any new house could be plumbed into. I accept surface water can be easily handled because the Dichty burn's at the edge of the plot. The other thing that concerns me is the piece of ground in front of Hawthorne Cottage. If there was some way we could condition that there's no future house to be built on that site, that would take away the risk of the final point the planning officer brought up, which is that a further application could come forward for that ground in front of the Hawthorne Cottage, between the cottage and the burn, which definitely would be in a bit of a flood risk area, I think. Other than that, I agree with everybody else that this is an aura bit of ground that surely should have been developed, and it's so close to the urban area, I don't think it's going to make any difference whatsoever. I mean, it's almost part of Dundee. If the Dichty burn was on the other side of the house, it would be in Dundee.
Thank you very much, Councillor King. I too also had never been in that area before, and I do agree with Councillor King that the house should be elevated from the ground, but I would think that would be just common good practice of building to raise it up past the level of that dip where they're intending to build. The connection to the main sewer, it might not be possible, but if it is possible, it would be preferable. And if it's not possible, a septic tank would be acceptable. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Convener, can I just ask Mr. Christensen to come in, please?
Yes.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Convener. It was just a couple of points of clarification. Just in terms of condition, in terms of drainage, it's not something that's normally done. In terms of the surface water, that's not dealt with through standard condition. In relation to the other question that Councillor King had raised about the other plot, if I can draw members' attention, I think it's to pages 37 and 38 of the papers, the applicant hasn't indicated on those plans that he actually owns the site. So I think in terms of the tests of the Circular 4 1998 in terms of planning conditions, I'm not sure that a condition of that nature would meet those tests. And in terms of a legal agreement on that, again, I don't think that would meet those tests as well. In terms of the flooding situation, there is obviously an objection from SEPA. SEPA are a statutory government agency, and if the committee were minded to approve the application, I just want to remind the committee that it would have to be referred directly to Scottish ministers. But there obviously there is an option that members have in terms of requesting additional information from the applicant in the form of a flood risk assessment to ensure that the principle of development on this site is actually acceptable in terms of any flood risk possibility. So it was just to raise those, that although if the application is approved, it would be under its current guise it would be referred to the Scottish ministers for a final decision.
Thank you very much for that. I think we should grant this permission and leave it to the Scottish Minister to see whether they approve it as well. Would that be agreed?
Agreed.
Convener, just before we go on, can I ask just for clarification with regard to the reasons for upholding the appeal? I think Councillor Duff, you had mentioned, again, similar to a previous application, that it would round off the settlement. I was just wanting clarification over any further reasons.
Yeah, well, there was a rounding off of the settlement. The drainage problem, I've seen no problem with it. I'm trying to think. Any other councillors got any other of the?
Well, I think was it not Councillor Miles suggested that we insist that they connect up into the foul drainage system, I mean, is that something we could put in as a condition?
That Councillor Duff would perhaps form part of the conditions. At the moment, we're looking for the reasons for approving the application.
Okay.
Well, TC2 relates to rural settlements. Now, it could be argued whether this is rural or not. Technically, probably it is, but in realism, it's not. It's so close to urban area. It could be considered an urban dwelling. So I think that can be counted on that score.
Also, I would reckon it's been once a brownfield site used as a commercial bleaching area where they've done works there. So
yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
So we're happy enough with that then?
Yep.
Right.
Dr. Christensen, is there anything else that you want to add?
I would just say that I think based on the objection from SEPA, I think we would have to say that the application is being approved on contrary to development plan.
Yes.
Subject to the regulations that have been set out by members.
Yes.
Fair enough.
So this applicant number 265/20 is passed with these regulations and going to this, will probably end up going to the Scottish Ministers.
Agreed.
Agreed?
Convener, can we just clarify, Mr. Christensen can probably help me out here, that obviously now that we've upheld the appeal, would the matter now be referred to the ministers? I'm just thinking in terms of the conditions that the members have discussed. Normally we would bring those back to a future meeting, just in terms of procedure.
Yes, I'm not sure in terms certainly of the procedure in terms of that, but certainly I think we would send the conditions to the ministers as well. I think is my understanding on that, but we'd have to check on that.
So, and basically on that basis, we've got to come back for another meeting to agree the conditions before it gets sent back to the Scottish Minister.
Yes, I think that's my understanding as well, Councillor King. So conditions will come back to a future meeting, and then, as Mr. Christensen has said, the full matter would be referred to Scottish ministers.
Agreed, yeah. So if that's everything, that will be the end of the meeting then.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Pending.